want to talk about Mark, right?
Yes. So
So
we're talking to Mark, and
what do we know about Mark? Anything?
I think they took a road trip. It was two guys from Germany and himself. I don't know if they took a van or an RV, but they did. And I'm not even sure. It was kind of like the South. It sounded like Utah and some other states, but he kind of
Okay.
wrote a bunch of stuff. So it
Yeah,
sounds like it'd be fun. We haven't, I don't know that we've talked to anyone on a guy's road trip.
no, we've not done a guys road trip, and it's also interesting to have somebody from outside of the United States do a road trip, because I think they don't realize how big it is, right? You know, they can drive from one country to the other, but here, you know, it's just like days to get across.
Right. Yeah.
And so, you know, it would be interesting to hear how they experience that.
Right. And who
And
planned it, and
yeah,
if
and
Mark planned it and invited them, or
yeah, and I wonder how if there's a difference between how boys do their road trip and girls do our, you know, because I bet there's
right.
similarities, right, in the kinds of things that we do. So I'd be interested to hear, you know, what they think the highlight of their trip was, and yeah,
Right.
and
And
how much
hopefully
bonding
hopefully,
is going
right, exactly. Hopefully they're still laughing about whatever adventures they had.
Yeah, because you really do learn a lot about your friends when you travel together. So that'll be an interesting thing to hear about too. So
Yeah, and sometimes it's the little things too. Like you see someone, like you meet them for lunch, but then to actually get in a vehicle for a full long day, so all of a sudden you realize, like, oh my gosh, like, this or that, or you
yeah,
know,
you catch on to all their little nuances, and
right? Yeah.
it can be too grueling, even with people that you know really well, to be cooped up in a car. That is a test of a relationship for sure. To be in that situation, so it'll be good to see. I'm anxious to hear what Mark has to say, and what they did. So
Yeah, me too.
okay, well, let's just see what he has to say. So, welcome everybody. Today we're talking with Mark, who wishes he could live in Victoria, British Columbia, and could speak French and Spanish. His travel advice is know something will go wrong and enjoy the chaos. He has a special skill that involves waving his hands, and if he could rename himself, he would be called Wild Daffodil. His motto is go out and make a memory. It doesn't have to be a big thing. So, welcome, Mark. That was so much fun. I'm so glad to have you here, and you're sharing us about your journey, right?
Yeah, I'm here to talk about my big road trip I did in 2017 with a good friend of mine who happens to be a German native. He lives in Germany.
Oh, that's awesome. So we're going to start the timer.
Yep.
And then continue on and tell us if there was two of you or three of you, and where you went, how you got around, where, any of where you stayed, how you did it. Let's just hear about it. It sounds great.
Yeah, perfect. So, so it was me and my buddy Vince, who my last year of my undergrad at Oregon State, he and I ended up living together. He was studying abroad from Germany. And then before he went back to the States at the end of the year, he was like, Mark, you want to do this huge long road trip? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. So it started with just me and Vince. And we ended up meeting, Vince had a friend from Germany meet us partway through this trip. So the first part, we started in Corvallis, Oregon, because that's where Oregon State is. We went down to the Redwoods, cut over to Lassen National Park, made it all the way as far south as Zion National Park in Utah, hit like Bryce, Arches, stayed in Salt Lake area for a couple days. Made our way Tetons, Yellowstone, up to Glacier, all the way over to like the Oregon coast, up to Rainier, Olympic. And then we even went into Canada, Victoria, Canada. That's where I fell in love with Victoria, Canada, actually. And then we made our way across Canada all the way to Banff, Jasper. And then I left them actually in Calgary, Canada, Alberta.
Wow.
Yeah, it was quite the trip. I mean, it was a lot of fun. We had no idea what we were doing, to be honest, though. We were fortunate enough, some of the places we were able to like stay at people we knew happened to be living in that area, in like Montana, Park City, Utah. We slept in our car probably 6 nights the whole time. We were camping. I mean, we stayed in a hostel in Moab, Utah. I mean, we kind of stayed anywhere we could. So one thing I learned after that trip is make sure you know where you're going to sleep at the before you get there, because it is not fun trying to find something late at night and it's nothing is available.
Yeah, that is a lesson.
Yeah.
Even in the car, I can imagine 3 men in a car might be a challenge a couple of nights, right?
Oh yeah, it was. What made it even more of a challenge is since my buddy Vince was going back to Germany after staying a whole year in the United States, we had all of his stuff in the car along with it.
Oh my goodness. So it's like you're moving and traveling at the same time.
Yeah, it was a very cramped car. We had it figured out where we could get somewhat comfortable in that car. But I mean, there was one time we thought we were going to have to sleep in the car, and we ended up meeting some very generous person at a bar who said, just like, don't sleep in your cars, like just sleep in my house.
Lovely.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
So I
Yeah.
was wanting to ask, how if you met people along the way. Sometimes it's hard to meet locals and people along the way when you're with your crowd, but it sounds like you guys did. Do you have other interesting, fun people you met along the journey, Mark?
Yeah, we met a ton of people on this trip. I mean, one of the first things that really pops out is when we were in Arches National Park. We went to what's called like the Devil's Garden, which is at the end. And you're doing a hike and there's no real trail. It's just a bunch of those stacked rocks marking it. We ended up totally getting lost on this. Yeah. So we're just kind of walking around in the desert at this point, and some other poor soul was lost along with us. Happened to be a girl who just graduated from UConn and was doing a trip from Connecticut all the way out to Arches, and then she was on her way back like the following day.
Oh,
So
gosh.
it was crazy. And then we went to Sealy, Montana, and we met up with some people, and there was probably a group of like 50 of us for like right around 4th of July in Sealy, Montana.
Uh-huh.
I mean, and then we met people like Olympic National Park in the Seattle area. We stayed with kind of some mutual-ish friends, people I've never met before. And then, I mean, we met most new people in Canada. We happened in Victoria, the same person that offered to let us sleep in their house. They had some friends who lived in Vancouver on the mainland. And when we went to Vancouver, like a few days later, we ended up meeting up with them. We went to like a comedy show, went out in Vancouver, BC. It was a blast.
Oh my gosh. That's great. Wow. Was there anything you learned about staying safe and something everyone should kind of be aware of? Because you mentioned getting lost. And
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, you got to go into things probably a little bit more prepared than we were. A lot of this was just spur of the moment, just hop in. But I mean, that's why I mentioned like, no things are going to go wrong. Even the most planned plan will go wrong. But it's sometimes the chaos is what's enjoyable. We had a lot of chaos on that trip, and I would just ride the wave and enjoyed it.
Right. Well, sometimes that's where the fun happens, when the unexpected happens, right? When you had no idea, right? You met these people and you get lost. I have had the best stories of just like getting lost and not knowing where I was, and somebody coming to your rescue, whatever. Those are amazing stories. I love that.
100%. I mean, we were so unorganized to the point the first night in Zion, the only thing we had to eat was a giant bag of carrots.
Oh.
And so that's like what we had I think we had it for like 3 days, where it was just nothing but carrots because we were so unprepared.
Well, see, now those are stories. You'll live your whole life about the bag of carrots you ate for 3 days.
Right.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It was a blast. I haven't eaten carrots quite like that ever since, but
I mean, who would after so many days of that? And I was going to ask, what you would tell somebody who wants to do this. It sounds like plan a little more than that would be a suggestion. Any other tips for someone else who wants to do this?
Yeah, I mean, as long as you know where you're gonna sleep, honestly, that's really the biggest thing, is just know where you're gonna sleep and enjoy the rest of it. You're gonna go, things are gonna get switched up big time on you left and right, but if you just kind of let it ride and try not to stress out too much, as long as you know you have a roof over your head at the end of the night or a place to pitch a tent, like really not much can go wrong after that.
Right.
That's great. Oh my gosh. I have to ask if you're still friends with the two guys that you rode around in this car with.
Oh yeah, no, we're great friends. I actually went and visited Vince 2 years ago over in Europe. And I still talked to both of them. So they'll be lifelong friends for me for sure.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Well, that unfortunately was our 7 minutes. I bet you heard the timer. It was so much fun to hear about this journey. It makes me want to get into a van or a car and hopefully brings a bag of groceries, it sounds like.
Yeah.
So I'm not eating carrots. But thank you so much for sharing your story, Mark. Travel with us through real stories from real people. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.